When you think of American food, what comes to mind? Burgers, hot dogs, maybe some barbecue ribs dripping in sauce? Yeah, not just you, pretty much everyone you know. But here's the thing, Native American cuisine is the OG American food, and yet most people don't even know what it looks like. Seriously, ask the average person to name a Native American dish, and you'll probably get a confused look followed by, frybread? Which, by the way, is delicious, but there is so much more. Indigenous people were here long before drive-thrus and deep-fried everything, yet their food has been left out of the classic American cuisine conversation. And the crazy part, Native American food isn't just historic. It's insanely delicious, super sustainable, and honestly, way ahead of its time. Ever heard of farm to table? Native people were doing that centuries before it was trendy. But don't worry, we're about to fix this little knowledge gap. Here are some Native American foods you absolutely need to try at least once. Some of them are comforting, some are unexpected, and some might just change the way you think about food forever. Top of the list is Three Sisters Stew. Three Sisters Stew is a dish named after the three crops of many Native American tribes: corn, beans, and squash. These plants were grown together because they supported one another. The beans climbed the corn stalks, the squash covered the ground to retain moisture, and the corn provided structure. Three Sisters Stew takes these ingredients and turns them into a thick, nourishing meal. Typically, diced squash, corn kernels, and beans are simmered with onions, garlic, and spices like sage or chili. Some versions include meat like venison or turkey, while others remain purely plant-based. This dish isn't just about great taste, it's about balance and the wisdom of indigenous agriculture. And trust me, a bowl of this stew on a chilly day will warm you right up. Next is a beverage that predates coffee in North America: Yaupon tea. This tea comes from the leaves of the Yaupon holly plant, native to the southeastern US. Unlike most native plants, Yaupon contains caffeine, making it a natural pick-me-up. Indigenous tribes like the Cherokee and Timucua brewed Yaupon tea for ceremonies, energy, and daily use. The tea has a smooth, slightly earthy taste with natural sweetness. To prepare it, the leaves are harvested, dried, and steeped in hot water. Some people roast the leaves for a richer flavor. If you love tea or coffee, Yaupon tea is a must-try. It's the only caffeinated plant native to North America, and it has a long history of being a favorite energy booster. After that refreshing sip of tea, another comforting dish you should try is hominy stew. This dish is based on hominy, which is dried corn that has been treated with an alkaline solution, a process called nixtamalization. This process softens the kernels and makes them more nutritious. In this traditional stew, hominy is cooked with meat, often pork, bison, or venison, along with onions, garlic, and peppers. Some versions add green or red chili for extra heat. It comes out as a thick, hearty, slightly smoky dish that feels like a warm hug in a bowl. This dish has deep roots in Native American and Mexican cuisines, showing just how influential indigenous food has been across the continent. Next is Hopi Piki bread. One of the most delicate Native American breads is Piki bread. Made by the Hopi people of the Southwest, this ultra-thin bread is crafted from blue cornmeal and juniper ash. What makes Piki bread special is the way it's made. The batter is spread onto a hot stone using the cook's bare hands, yes, really, creating a super thin layer that quickly cooks and dries. The result is an almost paper-thin, slightly crisp bread that's rolled into scrolls. It's a labor-intensive process, often taught from generation to generation. Eating Piki bread is like tasting history. It's light, earthy, and unlike any bread you've ever had. Let's switch things up to a food made for survival: pemmican. Pemmican is a high-energy snack that was essential for indigenous people, especially during long winters or travels. It's made by mixing dried meat, like bison or deer, with rendered fat and sometimes dried berries. The mixture is then shaped into compact cakes that can last for months without refrigeration. It's packed with protein and fat, making it the ultimate fuel for warriors, hunters, and explorers. Today, modern versions of pemmican exist with added spices and flavors, but the original recipe remains true to Native American ingenuity. Next is the sweetness called wojapi sauce. This luscious berry sauce comes from the Lakota and Dakota tribes and has been made for centuries using wild berries like chokecherries, blackberries, or blueberries. Unlike store-bought jams, wojapi is thick, rich, and often unsweetened, letting the natural tartness of the berries shine through. Traditionally, it was made by slowly simmering berries into a thick, pourable sauce. Some versions thicken it slightly with flour or cornstarch. It's perfect over fry bread, but also works as a topping for meats, pancakes, or even ice cream. If you love berries, you need to try this sauce. Another amazing Native American food you should try is wild rice pilaf. Well, wild rice isn't actually rice. It's an aquatic grass seed that has been harvested by indigenous peoples for centuries. Found in the Great Lakes region, wild rice has a nutty, earthy flavor and a chewy texture. In a pilaf, wild rice is cooked with broths, onions, and herbs like sage or thyme. Some variations add mushrooms, nuts, or dried cranberries for extra depth. It's a dish that's packed with protein and fiber, making it not just delicious, but also super nutritious. Now let's head to the Pacific Northwest, where indigenous tribes have been cooking salmon in the most delicious way possible, on cedar planks. Salmon fillets are placed on soaked cedar planks and then roasted over an open flame. The wood infuses the fish with a subtle smokiness while keeping it incredibly moist. This technique has been used for centuries and remains one of the best ways to prepare salmon today. If you love seafood, this dish is an absolute must-try. Then there's the refreshing nopales salad. Nopales, or prickly pear cactus pads, are a popular ingredient in Native American and Mexican cuisine. Once the spines are removed, the cactus pads are diced and either grilled or boiled. They have a slightly tart, lemony flavor and a crisp yet gelatinous texture. Tossed with tomatoes, onions, and lime juice, nopales salad is light, refreshing, and packed with vitamins. Another native dish is blue corn mush. If you've ever had oatmeal, think of this as its southwestern cousin, but with a much cooler color and a deeper backstory. This dish has been among the Hopi and Navajo people for generations. Made by slowly cooking blue cornmeal with water and sometimes a touch of ash from burned juniper trees, this mush turns thick, creamy, and slightly nutty in flavor. That juniper ash isn't just for taste, it boosts the calcium content of the dish, making it even healthier. People eat blue corn mush in different ways. Some like it plain, others drizzle it with honey, berries, or even piñon nuts for extra flavor. It's simple, but it's the kind of meal that sticks with you in the best way possible. Next, we have the Choctaws' cornmeal delicacy, banaha. In the southeastern tribes, specifically the Choctaw Nation, the people have been making banaha for centuries. If you've ever had tamales, this might sound familiar, but banaha does its own thing. Unlike tamales, banaha isn't stuffed. Instead, it's pure, humble cornmeal mixed with water and a little salt, then shaped into logs or patties. The mixture is carefully wrapped in corn husks and boiled until it turns firm, creating a dense, slightly chewy texture. People eat banaha as a side dish, pairing it with stews or beans. Some even add chopped greens or bacon to give it extra flavor. It's a perfect example of how Native American cooking transforms simple ingredients into something satisfying and delicious. Ever looked at an acorn and thought, yeah, I could totally eat that? Probably not. But Native American tribes, particularly in California and the Pacific Northwest, figured out how to turn these little tree nuts into something spectacular: acorn bread. The process isn't quick. Acorns contain bitter tannins, so they have to be soaked or boiled repeatedly to make them edible. Once the bitterness is gone, the acorns are dried and ground into a fine meal. That flour is then mixed with water, sometimes combined with honey, berries, or even nuts, and baked into a dense, earthy bread. You then have a rich, nutty loaf that pairs beautifully with soups, stews, or just a drizzle of maple syrup. It is bread, but it's also a survival skill turned into an art form. If you love pastries that are crispy on the outside and soft on the inside, sopaipillas are about to be your new obsession. These little pillows of fried dough have been enjoyed by Pueblo tribes in the Southwest for generations. The dough, made with flour, baking powder, salt, and water, is rolled out, cut into squares, and fried until it puffs up like a tiny edible balloon. The best part is the versatility. Some people drizzle them with honey, others stuff them with savory fillings like beans, cheese, or spicy meat. Sweet or savory, sopaipillas are dangerously addictive, so don't be surprised if you find yourself reaching for more. And there you have it, incredible Native American foods that are full of unforgettable flavors. Which one are you excited to try first? Let us know in the comments below.